So that's it. Sack Arne Slot. This season has been an absolute disaster for Liverpool. The reigning league champions currently sit in 6th place, 14 points behind Arsenal and 2 points behind Manchester United. And you know you're having a bad season as Liverpool when Manchester United are above you, because they have not set the world on fire themselves over the past few years. As league champions, Liverpool lost 4 games last season. They've already lost 7 this season. Bournemouth, Palace, Brentford, to name a few, who have beaten Liverpool. And it's not just the losses, draws at home to Burnley and Leeds and Sunderland, teams we should be beating. You know, Liverpool spent over £400 million in the summer. Ekitike, Isak, Wirtz, Frimpong, Kirkes, Leone. This team should not be in 6th place, and we've been even lower. What about the Champions League? Defeats to Galatasaray and PSV. It's not good enough. You know, comments by the manager for, you know, it helped losing to PSG in the Champions League last season. That helped us win the league. You can't say that as a Liverpool manager. And then what about our greatest player, or one of our most recent greatest players, Mo Salah, the fallout there before Christmas? You know, Salah's a legend at this club. What's Slot doing? So you as the viewer surely must agree that Slot's got to go. Surely. But hold on a minute. Take a step back from the headlines and actually look at this for what it is. You know, Liverpool went 30 years without a title. Now, I get that some people watching this won't remember that, but a lot of people do. And if you need a comparison, just have a look at Manchester United. You know, they've gone without a title since 2013. And they've barely been close. So Liverpool, in those 30 years, they only got close twice. Really. Under Benitez and Brendan Rodgers, and only a Gerrard slip, you know, let City back in. But Liverpool were a cup-winning team then. Yes, okay, champions of Europe in 2005, but FA Cup, League Cups, UEFA Cups. But they weren't league challengers. So Slot has delivered a title in his first season. I cannot believe that people were calling for a sack in October of this season. It's, you know, it's unbelievable. I mean, look at the unrealistic expectations in the summer once those signings were made. It wasn't just Liverpool were going to win the title again. It was, they might as well just give the title to Liverpool now, as in August, because they were just going to outscore everybody. And that, coupled with the expectations of today's general modern football, with, you know, constant news and social media, the expectations were incredible. You almost feel like if Liverpool weren't top by Christmas, they were going to have a bad season, you know, in most people's eyes. So the expectations. Look at the history of English football. It is incredibly hard to retain the title. Now, that's been skewed a little bit in the Premier League era, because Manchester United have done it on multiple occasions, Manchester City have done it on multiple occasions, and Chelsea have done it as well. But it's incredibly hard to retain a title. You know, teams, they want to beat you, even more so than the previous season, because you are the league champions. But injuries haven't helped to key players at key times. I mean, Isak's barely, he's barely done anything. And as I say, some of those signings have just not started well. Wirtz, he's getting good, but those first few months, Literally everyone's like, well, why have you signed him? You know, forget that he's come from the Bundesliga and has to catch up to the Premier League. You know, forget that it takes quite a few players time to assimilate to a new way of playing, a new country, etc. You know, he was being slaughtered in October and November. And yeah, he's not reached the levels we expect him to, but he is getting better. You know, I won't quite go as far as the couple of people have compared him to his stats to Cristiano Ronaldo's in his first season in the Premier League, because that was completely different. Ronaldo was 18 and Ronaldo got a lot better. You know, so there's things here that I think you need to read beyond the headlines. I think also as well, and it was mentioned in the beginning of the season, and I've only heard it really mentioned once, is the death of Diego Jota and the impact that that's had on the squad, and especially the players who knew him well. Because that's just something that I can't remember in English football history, at least in the Premier League or the Championship, a player dying who was at the top of their game, you know, in between seasons. I can't think of when it's happened before, at least in English football. So that's going to have a massive mental impact on some of the players. It doesn't explain everything, but I think that's a crucial factor. So should Slot really be sacked? I think as a bare minimum, he needs to qualify for the Champions League next season. I mean, for any manager of certain clubs, that's a minimum. Should Liverpool be winning the title, though, this season? I mean, I know they're not going to, but should they put up a bigger fight? Well, the problem with the Premier League is you have Manchester City, you have Arsenal, potentially you have Chelsea. You know, this isn't Germany, where it's Bayern Munich and maybe somebody else. And it isn't Spain, where it's just Real Madrid and Barcelona and maybe one other team. The Premier League is ultra competitive. So I also look at the Champions League. You know, Liverpool lost 2 games, and one of the biggest calls for Slot to be sacked came after the defeat to PSV. But the Champions League, come on, it's the league stage. You know, Liverpool finished in the top 8. They could have lost 2 other games and still probably finished in the top 24. It is harder not to qualify from that league stage than it is to qualify. You know, 24 teams out of 36 go through. Now, Liverpool, of course, were finished in the top 8. So, you know, look at last season, though. Liverpool finished top of the whole league stage, winning 7 games out of 8. But then drew PSG in the last 16 and went out. So I think the UEFA Champions League element needs to be taken out of the argument a little bit, because who genuinely cares about that group stage, that, you know, the league phase? As long as you qualify. It's when the qualifying games come round, so the last 16 game for Liverpool, when that's drawn, that's when the real business starts. And I do refer back to Klopp, because I was having a conversation with someone the other day and they said, you know, but I said about Klopp and his slow start, and they said, oh yeah, but he was rebuilding. And I'm like, yeah, you say that in hindsight, but he finished 8th in his first season, but granted it wasn't a full season, but then finished 4th. So 4th twice in a row. That's not close to the title. And yet he came with an image and an aura about him that probably gave him that time. And yes, the style of football, I'm sure, obviously did change. Now, Xavi Alonso has been named again. I've had a couple of conversations about this. People are implying that Slot will be sacked whatever happens at the end of the season, and they'll bring in Xavi Alonso. Now, if that is the case, I asked you this question. How much time are you going to give Xavi Alonso? Because if Slot can win a title in his first season and people wanting him out not even halfway through the second season, what has Xavi Alonso got to do? Now, yes, he'll bring his Liverpool playing history with him. But how long will you give Xavi Alonso or whoever replaces Slot? So, should Slot be sacked? Well, that's up to you. What do you think? I personally think winning you a league title at least gives you another 2 seasons. unless the club starts going down, 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 I don't think they will. I think Liverpool will come good in the Premier League this season, finish in the top four, and they are a possibility to win the Champions League. One of many teams. It's impossible to call at the moment. But let me know what you think in the comments. And also, if he does get sacked and Xabi Alonso or whoever replace him, how much time should they get? Let me know.